Hello, fellow mech warriors, Mage Leader here. Welcome back to the Battlemech Primer, the series that left out your favorite mech variant because I was too lazy to type out its armament statistics. We've been cruising right along for a while now, talking about the classics. We've covered mechs that date all the way back to Star League, machines with a history that's fairly straightforward. The companies saw a need, then built a Battlemech to fill it. But today, we're not going to do that. Our topic for this episode is a mech whose story is a bit on the complicated side, and many parts of it have been lost to the ravages of time, though more often to the fires of the military-industrial complex's deep, dark, and moist memory hole. Today, we're taking a look at the Mauler, or the Daboku, or the Linesman Mark II. Let's just dive in, shall we? This is ordinarily the part of the presentation where I tell you the year the Mauler was first produced in. Sadly, that's not quite possible with the Mauler. Officially, the mech was produced by Luthien Armor Works in 3048, but that's not the full story. The first real appearance of the machine, or at least of another machine that looked exactly like it, dates back to at least a decade prior. In the War of 3039, the forces of the Draconis Combine showed off a brand new Battlemech with flashy new technology pulled straight from the Helm memory core. It was a 90-tonner with an intimidating silhouette and some scary firepower. It was also a massive piece of shit and a waste of perfectly good C-bills. It was called the Daboku and, well, let's just say there's a reason that Luthien doesn't want you to remember it. How bad was the thing? Well, I'll give you one particularly humorous example. If you do any driving in ground vehicles, then you're probably familiar with the concept of an airbag. If you got up to as much mischief as I did in my younger days, then you also probably know that hitting a car's bumper in just the right way will set off said airbag. Well, the Daboku had that exact problem, but on a much bigger scale. If you hit the center torso's armor just right, it would trigger the automatic ejection and shoot the pilot out of his cockpit. Since the CT is the part of the mech that usually absorbs the most punishment, this became a fairly common occurrence. Kiritan mech warriors often found themselves taking a humiliating, impromptu vacation flight, leaving a perfectly intact assault mech behind for the enemy to pick apart at their leisure. This, of course, is super dishonorable and led to a lot of them taking their own lives in an act of ritual suicide known as Sudoku, a proud tradition of ancient Terra that also involves number crossword puzzles or something. I don't know, I'm not a weeb. And to be clear, that was just one among dozens of other problems with this mech. During the war, a bunch of Davian mech warriors began calling the machine the Mauler, probably as a joke, and that gave Luthien an idea. They would rebuild the Daboku. They had the technology. They redesigned the thing from the ground up to not suck balls at literally everything, and then began the process of deleting the Daboku from every single place it had ever existed. Designing a whole new mech is expensive, so they decided to keep the same overall design and just fix the broken bits. The issue was that it looked exactly the same as the old one, so to avoid any connection to the embarrassment that was the Daboku, they called it the Mauler instead, swearing up and down that it was a brand new machine and in no way connected to that travesty. Please believe us, we promise, it's true. Unfortunately, for researchers like myself, the memory hole operation was so successful that it's difficult to tell where the Daboku ends and the Mauler begins, a fact that is certainly not helped by how similar they appear. Also, the Daboku itself may have been a ripoff of the Linesman, but I'm not even going to start going down that rabbit trail. Suffice it to say that the Mauler is in fact not a shitty mech like its prototype. In fact, quite the opposite. The original configuration is the MAL-1R, and it's armed with a pair of ER large lasers, 2 LRM-15s, and 4 smoothies. Wait. Imperator Smoothie? What the fuck are these weapon names? And 4 AC-2s. Its weapons are focused almost exclusively around long-range combat, and it was built to be slightly faster than most other 90-ton machines in order to keep enemy mechs at a distance more easily. With all those missiles, it's more than capable of bringing the pain, and the lasers, while causing some heat buildup issues, provide it with an extra amount of punch. The AC-2s provide damage that, while not massive, is fairly constant, which basically means that the enemy is being steadily ripped apart so long as they stay in your sight. AC-2s are quick-firing little bastards as well, so the damage adds up pretty quickly. The Mauler is best used in large, open spaces with an escort of light mechs to keep it protected. Its increased speed does help, but a determined light or medium can still close with it fairly easily, and that extra speed comes at the cost of armor. It's not a slouch in terms of protection, but compared to other mechs of its weight, it's not quite as solid. Of course, it's not a charger, and it can protect itself fairly well, but its arsenal simply isn't suited for close-range engagements. The Mauler performs poorly in dense forests or urban environments, as it struggles to bring its heavier weapons to bear without a long sightline. While there are variants geared toward brawling, most tend to focus on the Mauler's biggest strengths. In battle, the Mauler is kind of like a combination of a sniper and a missile boat. Imagine if a catapult, an awesome, and a Jägermech all had a really freaky evening together, and you kind of get an idea of the end result. It's a mech that likes to rip its targets apart before they even get a chance to respond, and it does this remarkably well. However, it does have an Achilles heel. It's almost completely ammo dependent, and without a solid supply line it can quickly lose its fangs. But when used properly, it can send the enemy screaming back to mama. Even the clanners know that when you fight the inner sphere, you need to watch out for the one with the wacky shoulder pads. The Mauler managed to successfully shed the reputation of the Daboku debacle. It wasn't a massive hit, but it did serve the Kiritan forces well in many future campaigns.
Hey, what you watching?
It's become popular with many mercenary companies as well, where its ability to serve as a sniper and missile platform make it a valued commodity. It's also popular in the Solaris circuits because, well, just look at it. The thing looks badass, and nothing makes a crowd happier than a flight of missiles and the thunderous roar of autocannon fire. Not only that, but it was one of the star mechs of a FedCom children's propaganda show, and is one of the few Battlemechs to have had a successful line of action figures based on it as a result. With how much the crowds adore this thing, I think it's safe to say that Luthien has more than made up for their previous failures. The Mauler is a capable war machine by any metric, and if you manage to find one yourself, then my advice to you is simple. Keep it at range, keep it protected, and keep it firing. Do that, and your enemies will be pulverized quicker than you can say Nicholas Kerensky was a piss-baby mama's boy. So that's the Mauler. It came from unfortunate beginnings, starting life as the laughingstock of 3039, but it rose above its own reputation to become a worthy Kiritan death dealer. It's a testament to the idea that sometimes all you really need for success is a little reset, and an underhanded marketing department. It's got the look, it's got the power, and above all, it's got the guns. So snag yourself one and start blowing some things up. And while you're at it, kill a few clanners for me, would ya? Make Captain Hawkins proud. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining Mage Squadron by registering your name via the red button down below. You can also leave your feedback in the form of a digital comment. I read every single one, and your input helps me improve my lectures for the future. Until next time, this is Mage Leader, signing off.